Caleb Gilbert. Thanks for joining me. And of course, I appreciate very much. You were just on my podcast. Your podcast is doing very, very well, especially with our industry members. And God, I got to get those lights you have. Look at all the beautiful color you have in your face, and I'm all washed out and pale. I look older than I am, and that's saying a lot. So I'm not happy about that.
You do look like you're at least 46.
I will take that all day long, pal, because that's 10 years younger. So I got to get your lights. So so your podcast is doing really, really well. And I've had people contact me and go, "Hey man, that's really cool." I'm not, my podcast is not about the executive protection industry, but because so many of my friends and associates, that's where I know them from, or that's where I've been friends with them for 20 years, like you. That's who I get. So I get a lot of people hit me up. "Hey, Mike," that are in the EP industry going, "Hey, Mike, love the podcast with you, Christian, and Joe, and so many of my guests have been." But
yeah, I think we learn something new about everybody every time they publish this. People that you've known for a long time brings out a lot of details. It's just fun. It adds context to the working relationship.
That is true. And I really enjoyed having you on there. I'm glad it's doing well. But listen, what do you think about this exploding pager, exploding walkie-talkie situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's not new technology, but to this scale, I think it's a game changer as far as, how do you mitigate the risk of this happening to our protectees, to our facilities? How does TSA manage every electronic device that comes through? Are we going to start, doing separate scans on two-way radios? Like, in my mind, this while the technology, you look at, in the 90s, we've had exploding cell phones and different things like that. Obviously, this technology is far more advanced. I don't know the ignition source on it. I can guess. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. The fact that they were able to detonate that many devices, the numbers, I don't think we have any clarity on it yet, but massive numbers, massive impact to the enemy. And I think the ripple effect for the broader security industry from this is going to be highly consequential.
Yeah. Well, what boggles my mind is the strategy and the planning. I mean, this had to have started a long time ago, or they've got spies that are going, yeah, these are the phone numbers of the Hezbollah guys that have these things, or whatever. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Well, you look at the plethora of options that are available for the intelligence community to use in, situations like this, and risk versus reward, the impact, will it actually further the mission, and as far as having the ability to do a targeted attack specifically on individuals that you pass the device to, you can verify who they are perceivably, unless they pass it off to a third party. These are devices that are most likely issued to individuals. So as far as being able to limit your, secondary impacts, being able to limit the unintended consequences of this war, it's a huge step forward.
I don't think they've got any interest or intention of limiting that, because I think their attitude is, well, first of all, not to get into politics or religion, but why not? First of all, if you're going to rain down rockets on my village, on my city, on my people, not caring who you hit, I'm going to, fight fire with fire and blow up pagers. I don't care who's around, because they essentially, they declared war. I mean, not that they haven't been at war forever, but they're probably not too worried about that. But it just amazes me how intricate and how incredibly detailed the planning must have been from the very beginning to get the pagers. I mean, they either had to already have the pagers and get them into the hands of the enemy, or find out the enemy's pager numbers and then blow them up. Either way, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. No, a lot of planning, a lot of, this isn't something that just popped up overnight. Obviously, it's very intentional. And you think of any state sponsor, anyone on the terror watch list, anybody now is going to double check every time they pull up a device, every time they pull up their, sat phone, their cell phone, like this is going to have a rippling effect on anyone that thinks they might be a target of a state sponsored program, like obviously the Israelis deployed here.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. It'll be interesting. Trump talked about during the debate that if he was still president, none of these wars would be going on. And as soon as he's elected, if he is, he said before he's sworn in, they'd be over. It will be very interesting to see how that plays out. Because look, I'm not afraid of. Unfortunately, war exists, and is sometimes a necessary evil. But damn, it'd be nice if we could just stop killing each other. You know what I mean? It's insane.
You look at the conflict that's happening. I don't think there's going to be solutions anytime soon. But if there is a dominating factor that will encourage people to, handle their squabbles other ways, then that could be. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be tools. There's always going to be bad actors, regardless of where we squash it out. And just the fact that terrorists know that there are capabilities like this that can be highly targeted, that can be hyper-focused on a select few number of individuals is certainly a big deterrent factor for people to try to keep off that hit list.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's going to have, nobody's going to want to be using their cell phones or their pagers or their walkie-talkies.
That's what I'm saying.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears for a second. You and I are going to see each other next week.
Yes, GSX. Love it.
ASIS GSX in Orlando, Florida. Now you're flying out. Are you flying out Friday or Saturday?
Yes, I'll be there. I'll be arriving Friday night. I'm going to be actually working on getting my CPP, which is a long overdue process. Want to get that knocked out. So I'll be taking the prep course on Saturday and Sunday. White Glove Protection Group is sponsoring the Women in Security Gala on Saturday night, which would be a great opportunity to see a lot of our sisters in the industry. Black tie event should be a good time. And then obviously we have Texas Night on Sunday, where it's pretty much the kickoff party for GSX. Looking forward to seeing Chuck and everybody else there.
Yeah. Chuck did me a solid. He probably one of the nicest things anybody did for me for my birthday last week. He was shopping at Boot Barn. He knows that they are a corporate client, and all 30,000 or however many employees they have in North America are mandatorily have to take my live active shooter training. So I guess he knows the manager at the store that he shops at, and he did a birthday video of himself with her talking about how much that they love, my live program, stuff like that. So of course,
that's pretty awesome.
So cool. That was very, very thoughtful. So Chuck's a good dude, and I'm looking forward to seeing him as well. And Texas Night is always fun. What kind of stuff are you going to be doing while you're at GSX?
Boy, lots of networking. We have the ASI's executive protection community. We have our subcommittee meeting. We're meeting at the hub. There's so many different events throughout, training opportunities, and then every afternoon is a mixer and dinner, and it just shifts from place to place all throughout the week, culminating with Wednesday night EP mixer. Looking forward to seeing all our EP folks there, and rocking Wednesday night.
And I'm a sponsor, double sponsor of the EP Mixer on Wednesday night. MPS Security Protection and the Live Active Shooter program.
Nice.
As a sponsor. So I got lots of nice, images and stuff spread across social media by Craig McKim.
Love it.
By the way, let me stop for a second. I want to mention our sponsor, Executive Protection Institute. I just had the owner, Jerry Hang, on, or I guess Hang, I don't know how he pronounces it. I say Hang, on the podcast, and it will be coming out. Actually, it's coming out this week or next week, I think.
Awesome.
You went through ESI, but you're a fan and said you want to go through EPI because, they're one of the other big boys and one of the longest, EP training courses in America. But Jerry very well. What do you think about EPI?
Yeah, like when I first got in the game, we talked about this on the podcast. Back then there was two schools. You had ESI on the West Coast and EPI on the East Coast, and I chose ESI because I was a West Coast kid. that was literally as complicated as it got back then. And so, I've always loved, working with Jerry on the different committees and programs. A lot of the staff I've worked details with over the years, and love seeing the evolution, the improvement of EPI, really moving into a direct reflection of the industry, updating their programs. I've heard of, several instructors over the last couple of months, even, just going out there and improving. Great people, great program. And, the history of the program speaks for itself.
It is a good program. I went through the 7-day 21 years ago, and then I've done some follow-ups with the aviation security and stuff like that. I've been involved, and I was an instructor there. I love the program. I love Jerry and the whole crew down there. And I always enjoy spending time with them. And there's a link. You can look at the link in the comments or whatever it's called, that you can go and actually, if you go to my link, which is personalprotection.com/promotions/MJ podcast discount promo code, blah, blah, down and dirty. You can get like, I don't know, $300-400 off the 7-day or something like that. So it's a nice little discount if you use my code when you sign up. So, but anybody I've ever mentored, and I know you're the same way, anybody that says, I want to get into executive protection, one of the first things I say is, great. Put it on your credit card or pull out the money out of your savings, but pay for an accredited, well-known, well-respected executive protection school to give you legitimacy and learn what you don't know. Because when I went in, and I'd been doing EP for 15 plus years, I thought I was pretty hot poo-poo. And I came out very humbled, realizing that I didn't know anything compared to what the real world has to offer. So
yeah. I mean, you look at EP school, and it is such a force multiplier in your knowledge, but it's also, kind of a thrust forward in, all right, this is what area of the industry that you want to work, because before you go to EP school, you may not realize that there's 7 different sectors to the industry, that there's different facets, different specialties that each take specialty skill sets, specialty focus, specialty training, even, and being able to go to school and being around people, you can adjust and calibrate your goals within the industry. And, love being able to do that from people that have actually been there on the ground working protection details across the world.
Yep. Great experience, great networking, great training. So what's next for you in this before the end of the year? What are you up to?
Just moving everything forward. Really enjoying going to a lot of different, family office symposiums and dinners and you're
building. You're a startup at this point. You're building, so you're creating. I mean, you've got a million connections, but right now you're starting to leverage those connections to start building your business.
Yeah, it's an interesting progression. People might know Caleb Gilbert, but being able and taking and showing the quality of protection that people have seen from Caleb Gilbert over the last several decades, transferring to the white glove difference, has been a fascinating process for me to learn and grow. And, it's interesting for me, from being a person that solicits providers in the past, going to becoming a provider, right? And going to people and admitting, hey, I need contracts. Like, it's a business. Like that, to me, being able to meet their needs is one thing. I think, we accurately define that, but being able to, have that different conversation than I've ever had is a fascinating phase in my career. And, you can call it humbling, you can call it emboldening, whatever you want to call it. But it's interesting, to say the least, these conversations with people that I might know, seeing if the white glove difference really, aligns with their programs and their needs and their vision for their team. So having a ton of fun. I
think you have a tremendous, it's hugely beneficial that you were on the receiving end. So you know exactly what you need from your vendors. Now you're a vendor, so you know exactly what to give to your client to give them total satisfaction. That's a huge advantage, I think, over a lot of your competition. Yeah. And, having participated, in RFPs, issuing them, for my previous employers, it gave me context. And my RFPs are not like other people's RFPs. People see them and they're like, wow, that's incredible,
And whether or not it's incredible, I don't know, but I know that they're different because my perspective is one of, I want to propose solutions based on the solutions that we've found over the last couple of decades. I'm just not just providing a spreadsheet and a timeline of implementation of a program, like every detail of it has been thought out, because being a former, receiver of services shapes my expectations. So as a provider of services, I want to meet those expectations before it's even asked.
Right on. Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, it's going to be exciting to see how this thing progresses. It's an interesting industry and an interesting time to be in this industry right now, because there have been a lot of changes.
Yeah.
The bigger companies swallowing up the smaller companies, and it's changed the landscape a bit. And I don't want to say anything one way or the other for or against the bigger companies, but it has changed the landscape, and it's creating some opportunities for smaller companies like ours, I believe.
Yeah. Well, and the desires of decision makers have fundamentally changed, because you look at the post-COVID environment, the expectations have changed, where, pre-COVID, there was a lot more fluid transitions between, all right, this is the, embedded program, or this is where a program goes. And now the risk profile has changed. Oftentimes it's expanded or contracted. Budgets have certainly contracted or been refined. And so the selection, it's been interesting for me. I sat down and I wrote down every contract change that I was aware of in the last 6 months, just to see where people are going with their contract moves. And it's so much fun to see. And it's so much fun to see why they chose their providers, because to me, that's a path forward of, all right, how can we as a, boutique provider appeal to the decision makers, and it all boils down to the fundamentals, right? Like, people want that service. People want to have that connection and know that when they have a need, it's going to be filled by their provider. And at the end of the day, if we all are able to provide the fundamentals, that might not have been provided as consistently in the last couple of years through COVID disruptions, I think everybody that is, trying to put their best foot forward will come out on top for sure.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, like I said, I'm excited, looking forward to seeing how things progress. Well, listen, congratulations on everything that's going on. And thank you again for the podcast. It's doing very, very well. I think a lot of newer people and people looking to get into the industry learned a lot from what you said on your podcast. And that's what it's for. When I created Down and Dirty with Michael Julian, it wasn't supposed to be about security or executive protection or bodyguards or investigations or any of that other, not even alive. It's just, it was supposed to be talking about people's evolution in life and the challenges that they've had and how they've overcome it, and the lessons they've learned, and how they're a better person for it. And you had a lot of great things to say that I think is going to help a lot of people in our industry. So I appreciate that very much. By the way, if anyone wants to catch that episode, it's Down and Dirty, Down and Dirty with Michael Julian. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple, all over the place. Excuse me one second. Let me just reject that phone call. Sorry about that. And it's a great podcast. We got a bunch of great guests previously, and we got a bunch of great ones coming up. So, Caleb, listen, as always, it's nice to see you. I will see you in 3-4 days in Orlando, Florida.
That's right.
Look forward to that. And maybe we'll go live using our cell phones, walking around the floor of GSX and say hi to everybody.
And everybody that's watching, be sure and wish Mike a happy birthday.
Now, and I'd like to forget about it, but thank you. I appreciate that. I told my office, they said, okay, when's the birthday lunch? And I said, I don't want to have a birthday lunch. I don't want to think about it. I'm good. At this point in my age, I'd rather forget them than celebrate them. But thank you. That's a very nice sentiment. You and I, however, will celebrate, because I haven't seen you in a few weeks. So we'll get together for dinner.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Sounds good.
Bye.